It all began when the goddess bestowed her light upon a world that was nothing but a black whirlpool of chaos. From that divine brilliance, continents formed and 9 races were born: the Dragonians, elves, Oni, dwarves, demons, dark elves, centaurs, beast folk, and finally, humans. In a quiet human village, a young boy named Light prepared to leave his home. Filled with dreams, he bid farewell to his family, determined to become a great adventurer and create a better life for the people he loved. Yet his journey began not with triumph, but with a harsh dose of reality. When he arrived in the grand city, Light was overwhelmed. The place moved at a relentless pace, people rushed past without warmth or patience, and the sense of community he knew from his village was nowhere to be found. His first true disappointment came when he visited the Adventurers Guild to register his gift. Light introduced himself and revealed his unique ability, Unlimited Gacha, an odd skill that allowed him to press a button and summon an item based on the card drawn. Curious, he demonstrated it. The first card summoned a bent fork. The next 2 gave him a rotten apple and a moldy piece of bread. The onlookers scoffed, and the receptionist, unimpressed, classified him as F rank, the lowest possible grade. Embarrassed but not defeated, Light asked for available jobs. Unfortunately, the city's high illiteracy rate included him among its victims. Unable to read the job board, he had to settle for simple manual labor, collecting firewood and hauling supplies. The pay was miserable, but Light worked tirelessly, hoping each day's effort would bring him one step closer to his dream. That hope was shattered when a group of beast folk ambushed him after work, beating him and stealing his meager earnings. The crowd watched without compassion, treating him as if he were nothing more than garbage on the street. Yet, amid the cruelty, a single figure stepped forward, an elf with golden hair and gentle eyes. She knelt beside the beaten boy, helping him up with unexpected kindness. Her name was Sasha, a member of the Conqueror Tribes, an adventuring group that sought to unite the 9 races born from the goddess's light. Each member represented their kind: Garu the Beastman, Drago the Dragonian, Diablo the Demon, Oboro the Oni, Naano the Dwarf, a Dark Elf, and Santor the Centaur. Only one race was missing: humans. Light was invited to join them, and believing he had finally found both purpose and companionship, he accepted without hesitation. But being part of such a powerful group proved far more difficult than he imagined. While his teammates faced ferocious monsters with confidence and skill, Light struggled to keep up. Weak and inexperienced, he constantly needed protection, usually from Sasha, who often shielded him from harm. Her constant worry became a running joke among the others, who teased her for treating him like a child. Sasha always brushed it off, insisting it was her duty to protect the group's reputation. Still, it was clear she cared more than she admitted. Little Light couldn't fight. He contributed in other ways, carrying supplies, tending to injuries, and brewing tea that everyone came to adore during their breaks. Gradually, his quiet efforts earned him a sliver of respect. But deep beneath that fragile camaraderie, something darker was brewing. One day, while exploring a dungeon, their leader Drago suddenly stopped the group in a dimly lit corridor. He declared that the place was perfect for what they needed to do. Tension filled the air as everyone fell silent. Light, unaware of the heavy atmosphere, began unpacking his kettle to prepare tea. That was when Drago revealed the truth. The group had brought Light there to expel him. Confused, the boy looked to his companions for answers, but all he saw were cold, hateful eyes. Even Sasha, the one who once protected him, now glared with disdain. The Conqueror Tribes had decided that Light was nothing more than dead weight. They confessed that he was only included because their superiors suspected his ability might belong to a master, a being of immense hidden power. To confirm it, they had observed him like an experiment. When it became clear that his stats were ordinary, they concluded he was useless. With their true intentions revealed, their prejudice surfaced. They insulted his race, calling humans filthy and weak. The cruelest blow came when Sasha mocked the idea of ever having to marry someone like him, claiming she was relieved her mission to preserve elven bloodline would never stoop that low. Their orders were not just to expel him, but to kill him. In that dark corridor, Garu unsheathed his steel claws and attacked. His strike tore across Light's face, spilling blood and confirming the nightmare was real. In a panic, Light ran, desperate to survive, but Sasha's arrow pierced his leg, sending him crashing to the ground. As he crawled away, begging for his life, Garu approached, ready to finish him. But fate intervened. Light's trembling hand pressed against a glowing sigil on the floor, a teleportation trap. In an instant, a blinding light enveloped him, and he vanished before the killing blow could land. He reappeared deep within the dungeon's lowest level, a forbidden place crawling with monsters of unimaginable strength. Alone, bleeding and betrayed, Light realized he was doomed. He thought of his family, knowing he would never see them again, and wept quietly in the darkness. Everything he believed in, equality, unity, friendship, had been a lie. But even in despair, a faint spark remained. Amid his tears, Light swore vengeance. He would kill them all, not out of hatred alone, but to reclaim his worth in a world that had discarded him. As he struggled to stand, the ground trembled. The Hellhound Serpent, a level 1000 creature, emerged from the shadows. His monstrous form towered over him, radiating heat and malice. Against such a beast, Light had no chance. Yet he refused to die without trying. With nothing else to rely on, he activated his only gift, unlimited gacha. A card appeared in his trembling hands. When he pressed the button, a blinding light erupted and a woman stepped forth from the void. Dressed in a maid uniform, she raised her hand and annihilated the Hellhound in a single strike. The creature disintegrated into ash, leaving only silence in its wake. The woman turned to Light and knelt. Her healing magic mended his wounds instantly, restoring even the shattered bone in his leg. She spoke with graceful composure, addressing him as Lord Light, and swore to serve him unconditionally. Her name was Mai, the ever-seeking maid, a level 9999 summon, one of the rarest beings in existence. Using her appraisal technique, Mai examined her master's true potential. Beneath several layers of sealed power, she saw something extraordinary, the dormant force of a chosen one. The unlimited gacha, she explained, was far from useless. Its strength was influenced by the mana flow of its surroundings. The stronger the area's energy, the more powerful the results. The reason Light had summoned her was because he had unknowingly activated it in one of the most mana-rich places in the world, the dungeon's deepest depths. Mai assumed her master had done this intentionally, but Light, humbled and trembling, admitted it was pure chance, a desperate escape from betrayal. Seeing the pain behind his words, Mai embraced him gently, understanding that her master carried a wound deeper than any physical injury. She pledged her life to helping him achieve the vengeance he desired. Yet Light refused to let her handle everything. He wanted revenge with his own hands, no matter how impossible it seemed. Rather than doubt him, Mai smiled and vowed to follow his will, assisting him in every way possible. Her loyalty was absolute. In the darkness of that cursed dungeon, the boy who had been deemed worthless began to awaken. Light pressed the gacha button again, this time with resolve, his mind set on building the foundation of his revenge. The chamber glowed as countless cards materialized, flooding the room with radiance. From that moment on, the weakest adventurer in the world began his rise toward vengeance, the dawn of a new legend born from despair and divine power. So began the tale of Light and his unlimited gacha, where betrayal forged strength and the depths of darkness became the birthplace of his destiny. 3 years had passed since Light's descent into the deepest part of the abyss. Within the heart of his vast black castle, the air was heavy with the quiet reverence of those who served him. Every corridor shimmered with faint magic, and each servant bowed as he passed. At his side walked Mai, his ever-loyal headmaid, whose calm composure masked the intensity of her devotion. The fairy maids around them couldn't help but fawn over their master's presence, whispering admiration as he strode through the halls. Though Light paid them no mind, Mai's displeasure was impossible to hide. She viewed their behavior as a breach of decorum, yet out of respect for Light's tolerance, she restrained her impulse to discipline them. Beyond the towering gates, the castle's streets were alive with movement. The residents of the Abyss greeted Light with awe, referring to him as their master and ruler. The society he had built over these 3 years had grown more prosperous and organized, though its expansion brought new challenges. A woman approached, humbly reporting that their supplies of snacks and food had begun to dwindle. Light assured her that the administrator would be informed, while Mai noted that the matter would be swiftly resolved to maintain the castle's flawless reputation. The population had grown rapidly, and Light knew that their logistics system would soon require a full revision. As they walked, Light inquired about the other members of his quartet. Mai reported that Ayuki was stationed at the upper perimeter of the Abyss, mapping the dense, monster-filled forests that surrounded their territory. Light expressed his satisfaction, knowing that Ayuki's sharp instincts and unmatched skill made her ideal for reconnaissance. Mai, however, remarked privately that Ayuki's feline nature made her unpredictable, yet Light saw no fault in that. He valued each of his summons precisely for their individuality. Alice, meanwhile, had been dedicating herself to magical research. She was developing new spells aligned with Light's grand design, a complex web of strategies that would soon unfold. Though her workload was immense, Mai assured Light that Ellis found joy in her service, channeling her admiration for him into every new creation. As for Nazuna, she remained faithful to her post as the castle's guardian, patrolling the grounds with enthusiasm and pride. Her strength in close combat made her a formidable protector, even if her recklessness often left others exasperated. Light regarded her with fondness nonetheless, seeing in her a kind of untamed purity that balanced the composure of his other summons. When Light returned to the castle's inner halls, he was met by Jack, the stalwart warrior who had long served as his sparring partner and confidant. Though Jack's casual tone sometimes grated against Mai's strict sense of hierarchy, Light saw him as an older brother figure, a trusted companion forged through countless battles. Leaving Mai her duties, Light followed Jack to the training grounds. The echo of their blows soon filled the vast arena. Light's punches carried tremendous force, honed through years of relentless discipline, while Jack countered with the precision of a veteran fighter. Their duel unfolded like a clash of tempered steel, neither yielding easily. Despite the intensity, their bond was evident in the way they pushed each other's limits without malice. By the end of the match, they stood shoulder to shoulder, breathing heavily but grinning in mutual respect. The two later retreated to the baths to unwind, where the conversation turned serious. Jack reminded Light that few could rival his strength within the abyss, though he cautioned that the surface world held dangers yet unseen. Light, haunted by the scars of his past, vowed silently that he would never falter again. His revenge was not yet complete, and he would see it through to the end. While Light trained, Nozuna carried out her usual patrols around the castle. Her cheerful spirit and boundless energy made her well-liked among the staff, who often praised her diligence. When a group of fairy maids asked her to inspect a supposedly restricted area, she accepted without question, unaware that they were trying to set her up. Following their vague directions, she arrived at Light's private chambers, only to find Maya already there. The head maid, startled by her sudden appearance, hastily fabricated an excuse, claiming to be conducting cleaning duties. Nozuna, ever naive, inspected the room herself and immediately noticed the disheveled bed. She innocently concluded that Maya had been practicing a strange bed-making style, and her curiosity grew. Amused yet relieved by the misunderstanding, Maya allowed the farce to continue, secretly thankful for Nozuna's obliviousness. Before leaving, Nozuna remembered a message she was supposed to deliver from the maids. Reading it aloud without comprehension, she revealed their demand to end Maya's exclusive right to clean Light's quarters, accusing her of hoarding privileges. Though Maya maintained her composure, the letter only strengthened her resolve to discipline them. She rewarded Nozuna with a few coins from her efforts, which delighted the clueless guardian, who skipped away to spend her newfound riches at the market. Nozuna spent her coins on dorayaki and milk, savoring the simple pleasure of a treat after duty. Along the way, she encountered a Yuki, who had just returned from the surface. Mistaking the silent scout's feline behavior for conversation, Nozuna carried on a one-sided chat, misinterpreting every gesture and expression. Ayuki's patience wore thin, but she eventually handed over a completed section of the map for Mai, confirming her mission's success. Nozuna, proud to have understood, praised her before resuming her patrols. Later, Nozuna wandered into the throne hall, where the majestic seat of Light stood unoccupied. She admired it wistfully, imagining him seated upon it as he often was during audiences. Overcome with emotion, in her enthusiasm, she accidentally broke the wing of a sculpted decoration. Horrified, she tried to reattach it before fleeing the scene, hoping no one had noticed. Meanwhile, Mai summoned the rebellious maids for a private meeting. Reading their letter aloud, she demanded an explanation for their insubordination. Cornered and terrified, the maids offered clumsy excuses, claiming they only wished to ease her workload. Mai, unconvinced, assigned them an arduous punishment to clean the entire hallway leading to the throne room by hand. Their complaints were ignored. Discipline, she reminded them, was the foundation of servitude. Afterwards, she revealed she would soon depart on a mission to the surface, leaving them to reflect on their mistakes in her absence. But the maids' resentment only deepened. As they scrubbed floors, their envy of Mai's position festered into whispered curses. They gossiped about how she had been Light's first summon, imagining the time she spent alone with him in the abyss before the others arrived. Their jealousy turned feverish until, by chance, Mai overheard their mutterings. She confronted them calmly, reciting the very words of their attempted curse. Trembling, they confessed that envy had clouded their judgment. Mai, maintaining her poise, reminded them that during those early months, Light had devoted himself entirely to study and training. There had been no time for the indecent fantasies they imagined. Disappointed but resolute, she extended their punishment, ordering them to clean the throne room as well before her departure. The maids had no choice but to obey. That night, as the maids worked tirelessly, the broken sculpture wing Nozuna had damaged earlier fell to the floor, startling them into panic. Elsewhere, Nozuna lay peacefully in her bed, blissfully unaware of the chaos she had caused. She reflected on her day, proud of her patrols yet longing to see Light again. Her heart carried a mixture of admiration and yearning, emotions she could not fully understand. With a quiet sigh, she fell asleep, her last thought a wish to see her master the next day. At dawn, her wish was granted. Light appeared at the training grounds where Ellis and Nozuna were engaged in one of their usual squabbles. The moment Nozuna saw him, her face lit up with pure joy. Ellis, ever composed yet competitive, subtly reminded her that Light was there for official business, not idle chatter. Ayuki stood nearby, silent as always, until Light affectionately patted her head, a gesture that caused visible jealousy among the others. Their attention quickly shifted, however, when a massive hellhound emerged from the shadows of the arena. The beast's presence stirred old memories within Light, memories of his first, terrifying day in the abyss. For a brief moment, fear gripped him. But before the creature could act, his summons stepped forward, their eyes glowing with lethal intent. To them, the mere sight of their master's distress was an offense worthy of annihilation. Sensing their rising fury, Light composed himself and approached the hellhound, calming it with a touch. He knew that his summons, bound by devotion, would obey any command he gave, even if it meant destruction on a massive scale. Their loyalty was both his greatest strength and his heaviest burden. After ensuring the creature's safety, he gathered his servants. A message from Mai had arrived, signaling that the time had come to enact the first phase of his long-awaited revenge. The prey had taken the bait, and the wheels of destiny began to turn once more. Lord Garou was highly respected by the people of the city, yet his reputation hid a cruel truth. One afternoon, upon encountering a young human boy rummaging through the trash, he treated him as nothing more than filth, kicking him aside and spitting on his face before ordering him to get out of the way. To Garou, humans were worms. Afterward, he entered a nearby bar where he was welcomed as if he were a god. The regulars raised their cups to him, admiring the beast who had risen from the slums to become the city's most celebrated hero and a favored candidate to lead the werewolves. Garou basked in their praise, explaining that strength did not come easily. One had to embrace the instincts of a beast to thrive. To him, it was about knowing which jobs were worth taking and which were not. That philosophy, he claimed, was how he had become what he was. As he drank, one of his men inquired about a particular mission from 3 years ago. Garou remained silent. That job was something only he could speak of, and the memories still lingered in his mind. It had been a lucrative one, hunting down a human boy suspected of being a master. Killing him had brought immense fame and fortune to everyone involved. But the boy had disappeared after falling into a teleportation trap. Garou was certain no one could have survived those wounds. Yet even now, he still could not fully understand what these so-called masters were that nations were so desperately searching for. Somewhere deep within, curiosity stirred, but instinct told him it was better to let sleeping dogs lie. He ordered another round of drinks, unaware that someone unexpected was about to arrive. A woman entered the bar, a young servant named Mai. She introduced herself and addressed him by his old tribal name, drawing gasps from those nearby. The room went silent. Garou's subordinates growled at her for speaking so casually to their leader, but he silenced them with a gesture and asked what business brought her there. Mai declared that she was a servant of Lord Light, a boy she had sworn eternal loyalty to, and that she had been searching for his whereabouts for years. Garou grew curious, wondering if she knew something others did not. She claimed that the boy was of noble blood, though Garou found the idea absurd. To him, there was no way that a child like Light could be noble. Mai refused to elaborate, choosing silence over explanation. In Garou's mind, he recalled that the superiors had investigated Light thoroughly and never mentioned anything about nobility. Still, if Mai's claim was true, it could be an opportunity. She radiated wealth, and Garou saw potential profit in her presence. He decided not to believe her words, but to use them nonetheless. Mai pleaded to be taken to the last place where Light had been seen. Garou, sensing an opportunity and a trap, agreed. He gathered his best men, not for gold, but for revenge for his fallen comrade. Deep down, however, greed still guided his decision. They eventually traveled into a dungeon where Garou intended to lead her into the depths, use her body, and dispose of her afterward. Upon reaching the cavern where Light had vanished, Garou fabricated a story. He explained that the boy had been attacked by a monster, wounded, and accidentally triggered a teleportation trap that had sent him away. Mai knelt in grief, overwhelmed by emotion. Garou pretended to share her sorrow, though his intentions were far darker. Soon the exits were blocked, trapping her. He viewed humans as fragile and easy to deceive, yet as she began to speak, his confidence wavered. She described the betrayal and torture Light had endured in vivid detail, things no outsider could possibly know. She spoke of his suffering, of the filth and dampness of his prison, and of the pain he endured while being beaten and left covered in blood. Garou froze. Only members of the tribal concord and a handful of superiors knew those details. As realization struck, fear followed. He demanded to know how she had learned such things. Mai's eyes grew cold as she declared that her loyalty belonged only to Light, and that she would eliminate everyone responsible. Before Garou could act, the atmosphere shifted. A familiar presence emerged from the shadows. Light himself appeared, his calm expression concealing the fury beneath. Everyone stood paralyzed, unable to comprehend how the boy had survived. 3 years had passed since his supposed death, and yet he stood there unchanged. Panic spread among the werewolves. They suspected an ambush, convinced others must be nearby. Garou, trembling, could not understand how the boy he had once crushed could stand before him alive. Light, now far stronger, had returned for revenge. Garou mocked him, laughing at the idea that a mere level 15 human could challenge someone his caliber. He was a level 150 beast warrior, surrounded by companions even stronger. There was no possibility of defeat, or so he believed. The tension snapped when two of his men were instantly decapitated. Maya had moved faster than anyone could react. Blood splattered across the stone floor as silence fell. Light thanked her calmly and asked only that she block the exits to prevent anyone from escaping. Terror filled the room. Garu insisted it was a fluke as she had caught them off guard, but Light's presence was different, measured, unshaken. Garu continued to mock humanity, claiming they would always be inferior. He insisted that humans were born weak, destined to remain beneath beastkind. Light countered this belief not with words but with action. Garu's confidence faltered when Light pointed out that every race had its own level cap, a system that fueled discrimination against humans. But Garu dismissed it, boasting that beasts were simply stronger. He lunged forward, preparing to crush the boy. In a blur of motion, Light eliminated Garu's remaining men with his staff, each strike deliberate and final. Garu grew desperate, using a magical stone to summon a level 500 monster to destroy him. Yet Light remained still. The monster lunged and dust filled the air. When it cleared, Light stood untouched, having blocked the attack with ease. The beastman's eyes widened in disbelief. Then, with a single motion, Light froze the creature solid and shattered it into fragments. The display of power sent Garu into utter shock. A level 500 monster destroyed effortlessly, something no human could do. Light then revealed his current level, 999. The entire pack trembled. Humans were never meant to surpass level 100, yet he stood before them as a living impossibility. Garu's mind spiraled into confusion and fear. The boy had not aged, his appearance preserved by a relic known as the Youth Bracelet. Light explained that he had never forgotten the despair and agony of that day, the betrayal, the blood, the humiliation. His voice, though calm, carried the weight of vengeance. Garu collapsed, trembling and pleading. He claimed that everything had been done under his nation's orders, that none of it had been personal. He begged Light to remember the camaraderie they once shared. His remaining allies mocked him for cowardice. Light demanded information about the masters, but Garu knew little. He explained that the superiors had merely ordered them to locate the masters without explaining why. When others tried to interject, Mai silenced them permanently, slicing them apart in an instant. Desperate, Garu admitted that even if Light were powerful enough to challenge the nations, he could never win alone. They possessed ancient weapons, relics, and artifacts collected over centuries. Light listened, understanding the truth yet unmoved by it. He had always known there were limits, even for him. He ordered Garu to follow him deeper into his chamber. There, the beastmen witnessed an army, humans and monsters alike, sworn to Light's command, their power radiating throughout the cavern. Overwhelmed, Garu broke down in terror, realizing that the boy had truly become something beyond mortal comprehension. As punishment, Light chose not to kill him. Instead, he condemned him to a life of eternal despair and existence worse than death. Garu wept, realizing that they had created the very monster they once tried to destroy. In his final moments of clarity, he asked Light if his goal was to become a god. The boy paused, reflecting. The idea had never occurred to him, but he saw no harm in it. A god could decide the fate of all, granting joy or suffering at will. At last, Light turned toward the light at the cave's exit, ready to bring his power to the surface. The vengeance of 3 years had only begun.